Hello everyone, Emilie, Fontaine's renowned perfumer, will be the one new character coming out in patch 4.8. Although Emilie's gameplay is pretty simple and straightforward, her kit is unique because it utilizes burning, and although the burning reaction is generally considered weak and detrimental, Emilie's kit really strengthens burning teams, potentially allowing them to compete with the many other strong teams that exist in the game. So let's get right into explaining her initial kit. As always, remember this is very early information, so very subject to change. Emilie is a 5-star Dendro polearm user that ascends with crit damage and is Numa aligned. Her base stats are shown here. She is designed to be an off-field Dendro sub-DPS playing in a similar manner to Fischl. However, in order to maximize her damage, Emilie requires the existence of burning enemies, making her the first character in Genshin with a kit built around the burning reaction. I want to emphasize that although Emilie is a burning-oriented character, her main damage is not from the actual burning reaction. It is from her talent damage that scales up attack. Burning is only required so that her talents have higher multipliers. So let's go over what her skills are. Here are the numbers on her normal talent. She won't be using her normal attacks at C0, so you can ignore this. Next, her skill, which is the core of her kit. When cast, Emilie deals damage and places down a Lumidose case, which is her turret that deals Dendro damage every 1.5 seconds. These attacks are single target oriented hits but have a very small AoE like Hyperbloom does. Its range is bigger than a Hydro infused Dendro MC burst, so it's pretty comfortable and you won't have to worry too much about enemies being too far away to be hit. Only one Lumidose case can exist at a single time. Her skill has a 14-second cooldown, but the case lasts for 22 seconds, making her turret have full uptime very easily. On its own, the damage from the case is pretty low. However, Emilie's case is upgraded with the burning reaction. When a nearby enemy is burning, one stack of scent will drop every 2 seconds that the case can absorb. Once the case has collected 2 stacks, it will upgrade to a level 2 Lumidose case, which will deal more damage and shoot out 2 hits every 1.5 seconds instead of 1. Stack generation is capped out at 1 enemy, so you won't be getting more stacks in AoE, and the range of detection is as big as the Abyss, so you don't have to worry about burning enemies being out of Emilie's range. Because stacks only generate every 2 seconds, it will take a couple of seconds for Emilie's turret to upgrade and reach its max potential. The TLDR explanation is that Emilie's skill is a Dendro Oz that deals more damage when a burning enemy is nearby. Lastly, quick notes on energy ICD and snapshotting. Over the whole duration, the case will generate about 5 to 6 Dendro particles and it will apply Dendro every other damage instance, so about every 3 seconds. Also, Emilie's skill currently does not snapshot. The stacks from burning enemies aren't just for upgrading her skill, however. With Emilie's A1 passive, every time her level 2 case collects 2 scent stacks, it will shoot out an additional AoE Dendro attack that deals 500% of Emilie's attack. This is a pretty big scaling, and with the timing of stack generation, you should be able to proc this 4 times every rotation. This should have a separate ICD with her skill turret hits, so with the two combined, Emilie's Dendro application is somewhat slow, but should be good enough for burning with off-field power, which is the most important thing. Thus, maintaining a burning enemy is essential for Emilie's damage. This is further reinforced by her passive talent, which gives 36% damage bonus to Emilie's attacks if they hit burning enemies, but make her attacks deal 90% less damage if her attacks hit an enemy with quickened. So, do not play teams with electro characters like Aggravate or Hyperbloom. This passive ensures that Emilie stays within the burning niche because doing 90% less damage is not very good. Now, burning is infamous for killing your own characters extremely quickly. Luckily, Emilie's A4 gives her party 85% pyro res to burning damage as long as her Lumidose case is on the field. You should probably still be a bit careful dying to burning, but this will help out a ton. The last thing to cover is her burst. 13.5 second cooldown, 50 energy cost. When you cast her burst, Emilie destroys any existing Lumidose case and places a level 3 case for 2.8 seconds. You'll stop getting normal turret damage and A1 damage procs during this time, but instead, the level 3 case spawns a semi-large field that deals damage in a way similar to Ganyu's burst, with a max of 9 hits and hitting a minimum of 4 of them in single target. After the duration is over, her turret is respawned. If you didn't have a Lumidose case already when you use her burst, it will spawn the regular level 1 one. But if you destroyed an existing case initially, it will respawn the case you destroyed, retaining its original level and scent stacks. So if your turret was level 2 and you used Emilie's burst, after the 2.8 seconds of damage, the returning turret will still be level 2. Thus, the burst is not only extra damage, but another way to refresh her turret. That's everything on Emilie's base kit. Talent priority is simple, skill over burst. She has no party buffs, she just deals a ton of damage with her Lumidose case as long as there's a burning enemy. Thus, her gameplay is very simple. You place her turret with either her skill or her burst, then you swap out to your other characters. Ideally, you place her turret with her burst every single time, but that requires a lot of ER. Thus, it will likely be best to burst every other rotation to avoid the high ER requirement. So you would alternate placing and refreshing Emilie's turret with skill and burst. Next, let's cover her constellations. C1 increases her skill and A1 passive damage by 10%. In addition, an additional scent can be generated when a character in the party triggers burning or deals Dendro damage to burning opponents every 2.9 seconds. This constellation combination looks weak, but is actually pretty strong because more scent means more A1 procs. C1 will add an additional 3 A1 procs, so 1500 talent damage extra in total, which is pretty good. C2 pretty much just gives Emilie 36% attack as long as the Lumidos case collects scent, which will be the case since you want to maintain burning. Doesn't look strong, but the attack percent is really good on her as an attack scaler, so don't sleep on it. C3 increases skill level by 3, C4 increases her burst duration and decreases its targeting interval. This makes the max hits 16 and 12 hits minimum in single target. C4s are typically meh on their own, but this one looks pretty good. C5 increases burst level by 3, and lastly C6 gives Emilie a Dendro infusion for 5 seconds or 4 hits after she uses her skill or burst. Each hit deals an extra 250% of Emilie's attack and generates 1 scent. Overall, similar in style to C6s like Yelan's and Chiori's, nothing much to say here as they're typically good. Next, let's move on to her potential builds. Remember that Emilie's damage doesn't come from the burning reaction itself. It comes solely from her attack scaling talent damage, which is higher when burning exists. Thus, normal damage stats like attack, crit, and damage percent are what you're looking for. For weapons, her signature looks to be her clear best in slot, 608 base attack, 33.1% crit rate, and the special passive gives 15% attack and up to 36 damage percent as long as you trigger burning, which will happen. In addition, the weapon gives her 8 energy, which is great considering her burst is something you want to use and it's only 50 cost. Other 5-star weapons that give stats like crit, attack, and damage percent will be good as well. Jade Spear, Calamity Queller, and Homa come into mind. For 4-star weapons, there's unfortunately not too many good options. Deathmatch looks to be her best because of the crit. Blackcliff Pole is another consideration, and Fab is a possibility if you're struggling with ER, but it won't be the best for her raw damage. The best free-to-play option looks to be Missive Wind Spear. Not the greatest since EM is not useful, but it gives a lot of attack percent, which is nice. For artifact sets, there looks to be 3 options. Her best will obviously be the burning set, Unfinished Reverie. 18% attack and a constant 50 damage percent because you will have burning enemies nearby in Emilie's teams. Another good option is Golden Troop. Since Emilie is a turret character, elemental skill damage is great. However, it will be worse than the burning set because Emilie does deal damage that isn't considered elemental skill damage, such as her burst and A1. Lastly, you can also go 4-piece Deepwood as she is a Dendro DPS. Ideally, you put the support set on another character that can proc the 4-piece so that Emilie can go max damage, but if you can't really fit it on another character, then Emilie can use it herself. For stats, very simple. Attack Hourglass, Dendro Damage Goblet, Crit Circlet. Prioritize crit, then attack, then ER, then lastly EM. Again, Emilie doesn't deal damage from the burning reaction itself. Burning does very little damage even with EM, and either the Pyro or Dendro unit can trigger it, so EM is not useful. As for ER, if you want to burst every rotation, you're looking to 160% ER or more with Fab. Even though her burst cost is 50, she'll be off field most of the time, so she will still need a good amount of ER. Thus, it will likely be better for you to focus on damage stats and burst every other rotation to refresh Emilie's turret. Even then, it might be good to build around 120% ER just to be safe. Lastly, let's talk about her potential team comps. Emilie's damage requires a consistent burning aura on the enemy to dish out her damage, so she is limited to burning oriented teams. She can technically still work in Aggravate or Bloom using her just for the Dendro application, but she will be doing very little damage, so there's really no point in using her in these teams. So let's stick with burning teams. Obviously, along with Emilie, you'll need another power unit. I think a good choice for this power unit is one with off-field application to ensure burning stays on the enemy, especially in multi-wave situations. So characters like Toma, Dea, and Xiangling are good options, and these characters can be the one running 4-piece Deepwood to increase Emilie's damage. For the last 2 slots, you have some options. You could do something like Version, or try to double dip in the burning aura and try the vape and melt using both a cryo and a hydro unit. However, I am a bit hesitant recommending these teams because it is likely that burning can fizzle out because you applied too much of the other element from the other characters. It might be able to work if you're able to reapply burning, but it's hard to map out how these reactions will exactly interact on paper without in-game testing. So while these teams may be a possibility, I would be a little bit cautious and wait for more testing to be done. Nevertheless, there are team comps that will have more consistent burning and are likely to be some of her strongest teams, so I have a bit more confidence in suggesting them. You can go double Pyro with Bennett and Xiangling, and then a Hydro character on the last slot to vape with the burning, such as Niviolette or Farina. No defensive utility at all, but it has the potential to deal a lot of damage. You can go Burn Melt with a Cryo carry like Risley, Bennett to buff your Cryo carry and Emilie, and a defensive power unit like Toma that also applies extra power off field. This is the main burning team we originally had with Nahida, and Emilie will perform very well in her slot. And lastly, there's actually a lot of potential for a burning mono pyro team where you have a pyro main DPS like Linny or Arlecchino, Emilie, Bennett for his buff, and a flex slot that can be Kazuo for more damage or Zhongli for the comfort. And surprisingly, this team works just because your pyro carry and Emilie just deal a lot of raw damage. That's everything I wanted to cover on Emilie. As a character with a kit that just does damage, her damage in teams is the main determiner on how strong and effective of a unit she will be. Now originally, the info on Emilie stated that her skill turret was able to snapshot, resulting in early calcs showing Emilie doing an abnormally large amount of damage in her teams as an off-field DPS. As I expected, it was confirmed that her skill currently doesn't snapshot, which makes sense, otherwise her Constellation 2 just wouldn't work. But even without the ability for her skill to snapshot, Emilie is still really strong in burning teams, being able to raise the team DPS of these burning teams to be pretty competitive to other strong teams at the current moment just through her raw damage. In addition, her not snapshotting means your main carry will be able to spend more time in buffs like Bennett's Burst, thus raising their damage. It is looking like despite Nahida's EM buff, Emilie would just bring more damage to burning oriented teams. And Emilie is better in multi-wave content, which is becoming more frequent in Abyss because she has a turret, but with Nahida, you have to reapply her skill onto new enemies. Now of course, this doesn't make Emilie stronger than Nahida overall because Emilie is restricted to burning teams as she cannot utilize the other strong side of Dendro with Electro. But being strong in a niche is perfectly fine. In many ways, she is similar to Chiori, and I mean this in a good way because I do think Chiori is a solid character. Both are off-field DPSs that just deal damage and both strengthen their teams in their niche, Chiori with Geo and Emilie with Burning. And while Chiori is more versatile than Emilie because you can put double Geo into more scenarios than you can a Burning core, Emilie is looking to have a higher damage potential because her teams are just looking to deal more damage. And with Notline coming out soon, I fully expect new power units to synergize even better with Burning, increasing Emilie's value. So I'm fairly excited about Emilie's potential, and I'm glad that a less utilized reaction like Burning is finally getting more attention. Hopefully Hoyo doesn't mess with her kit too much. I hope this initial overview and analysis on Emilie's kit was helpful to y'all. Leave any questions in the comments and I'll try to clarify anything. Drop the video a like or sub to the channel if you like this type of content, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.